Good morning, guys. I hope everyone is safe and sound at indoors. And thanks for joining us for the first ever Digital Local Hack Day. Today we are having two great speakers with us. So first up, the topic is AWS fundamentals, and this session will be taken by ANURAG, KALE, and after that we'll be having Twilio 101 session, which will be taken by Jayesh Ahire. So exactly what is local hack day share? So local hack day share is an simultaneous event which is taken care by GitHub and MLH, and which is simultaneously occurring in the world at same time. So let's watch an introductory video.
Hi everyone, I'm John Gottfried, one of the co-founders of Major League Hacking, and I am so excited to welcome you today to Local Hack Day. Over the course of this video, we're going to share all of the amazing resources that you get for being part of MLH's Local Hack Day. You'll get free promo credit from amazing tech platforms. You'll get info on all of the cool swag and contests that we have going on, and much, much more. So pay attention throughout the entire video to find out what your experience is going to be like today. Major League Hacking, also known as MLH, is the global hacker community. Our mission is to empower hackers just like you, regardless of where you live, what technology you use, or what your skill level is. Every year, more than 125,000 hackers participate in MLH events all over the world. They're developers, designers, and makers just like you, and they're coming out to be part of this amazing community where they can learn new technical skills, find like-minded people to collaborate with, and even get amazing jobs. We are so honored that you've chosen to join us today. Local Hack Day was created to bring together local hacker communities from all over the world into one massive global event. Each Local Hack Day has a different format, like a mini tech conference, a hackathon, or even a demo day where you can show off what you've been working on. You'll get to learn, build, and share amazing new skills with your local hacker community and the global hacker community of MLH. Last Local Hack Day was one of the biggest days of hacking we've ever seen, with tens of thousands of hackers across hundreds of locations on all 7 continents. What up, penguins? Today, you're going to be participating in Local Hack Day Share. Unlike Learn and Build, our previous 2 events in the fall, which were focused on learning new skills and building new hacks, Share is about finishing up your projects and showing them off to the global community of MLH hackers. It's an amazing opportunity to gain some more advanced skills, polish up the hacks you've been working on for a while, and add some really impressive projects to your resume or portfolio. We'll be giving hackers the opportunity to demo their projects on our Discord server so that hackers from around the world can see all of the amazing things that their new friends are building and finishing up during Local Hack Day Share. Over the course of the event, we'll be hosting some awesome workshops and activities so that you have a good time and learn some new skills from our partners and friends that help you finish up your project. Check your email to get access to all of the amazing learning resources that you'll need to be successful today. Plus, you'll get some really good promo codes and freebies that will make your hacker experience even better. If you didn't get the email, double check with your organizer that you're properly checked in to Local Hack Day. The COVID-19 situation unfortunately made it impossible for you to get your swag immediately during Local Hack Day, but we are shipping swag out to organizers to distribute to you when it's needed. Make sure that you officially check in to Local Hack Day Share so that when your organizers are ready to distribute swag, they know that you participated. And of course, we want you to be able to go home at the end of the day and show off what you've accomplished. That's why you'll be getting certificates to commemorate your achievement signed by MLH CEO and co-founder Swift. In addition to the swag that you can get on site at Local Hack Day, we'll also be running some community contests where you can win prizes for showing off your hacker passion and supporting the community. Our first contest is a local Hack Day drawing contest. Imagine what your hacker community represents. Even if you can't be with them in person, I'm sure they mean a lot. Draw your depiction of the awesomeness of your hacker community and share it with us on Twitter and tag @MLHacks and hashtag #LocalHackDay, and you could win prizes for the most inspiring. Our second contest is a GitHub Octocat drawing contest. Do your best rendition of your favorite Octocat on paper or digitally and tweet the photo to us with these hashtags, and you could win amazing prizes from MLH and our partners. Our last contest is one of my favorites. It's the mentorship. If you log on to Discord and help your fellow hackers solve a problem, learn something new, or maybe just debug that tricky part of their code, you could win prizes just for being a supportive member of our local Hack Day community. All of the hackers all over the world who are participating in local Hack Day Share will be communicating and collaborating using Discord. Make sure you log on so that you don't miss out on all of our awesome workshops, raffles, prizes, support questions, and more from MLH and our partners. If you haven't used Discord before, it has amazing support for screen sharing, audio chat, and more for a more connected experience during this time when we can't be together in person. Once you log on to Discord, there's a couple of important channels that you should know about. First is announcements, where you can find out the latest updates about local Hack Day and learn about our upcoming workshops, raffles, and other content. Next, we have the welcome channel, where hackers around the world can introduce themselves to each other. And yet, we also have a fun off-topic channel where you can chat with hackers about what's going on, what they're working on, and what's inspiring you most during local hack day. If you need support, you can go to Ask MLH for help from our staff, or Ask Mentors for any other problems you might have. Last but not least, we'll be setting up channels for every community group to hang out and chat throughout the event. Everyone who registers for local Hack Day will get an invite to Discord. Make sure you check in with your community organizer once you join the server. There's a lot of ways to win prizes at local Hack Day. Just use our sponsor technology for your project. All you have to do is integrate Microsoft Azure, GitHub, and tag that you used it on DevPost. We'll be selecting winners at Microsoft. They provide a powerful cloud hosting platform that gives you access to tools beyond your imagination. In the course of local Hack Day, and not only can you win prizes, but you'll even get free credit just for being a student. So I'll let you hear from them firsthand. Let's give our full attention to our amazing sponsors over at Microsoft while they say a few words.
Hi there, I'm Christopher Harrison. I'm a program manager at Microsoft. We're super excited to be part of Local. I'm also really intrigued to see what everybody's going to like earlier today. And along those lines, we have a couple of resources that are available to you to help you get up and running inside Azure. First, you can head on over to aka.ms/hack-with-Azure, where you'll find a GitHub repository with all sorts of resources that are available that you can peruse to jumpstart your application. The other resource that I want to highlight is Azure for Students, which you can access both by going to the Hack with Azure site or directly by going to aka.ms/. Azure for Students will give you $100 US in credit to Azure that you can spend over 12 months, as well as free access to all sorts of different services. You can find people from Microsoft to help support you through the event at the Ask Microsoft channel. Come find us. We're ready to talk.
In addition to our presenting sponsors at Microsoft, we receive support from amazing companies like GitHub, who runs the leading code collaboration platform. I'll let them tell you what they brought to you on local Hack Day.
Hello everyone, my name is Juan Flores and I'm program manager at the GitHub Kitchen. I'm really excited to be working in this very task on organizing local Hack Day. GitHub Education, our mission is to give tools to actually students who are just as talented as you, so that you can build any idea or any project that you have in your mind. This is why we have worked with 100 companies all over the world and build a GitHub Student Developer. Where you can get access to tools, services, resources that go from servers to centers too, so that you get everything that you need to successfully any hack. And at the same time, learning some really valuable industry skills. With your education, you have free access to all these resources. And don't forget to extend our global handles. Our friends from knowledge will be running activities, and you can read some really cool GitHub story. And I'm looking forward to see what we're going to be building today. Happy hacking.
Thank you to all of the organizers who help put on local hack days for their communities. It takes a ton of work to make a successful event, and local hack day could not happen without you. Make sure you thank your organizer before you go today, and if you're interested in organizing, check out localhackday.mlh.io for more information on our next event. Whether you're a veteran hacker or a first-time coder, we are so thankful that you've joined us today at Local Hack Day. We hope that you'll have a great experience, meet some new people, and learn skills that you can take into the rest of your life. Thank you again, and happy hacking.
So guys, after the whole session is done, you can log in into these two links, and you can get some free credits and resources. And as you know, GitHub is also providing student developer pack. So there are so cool and more. There are some pricey tools which you can use during your products or your projects. So keep that in mind. And after that, you can log in into the following two links, and you can take benefits of those resources. So as you saw in your video, the Microsoft, GitHub, and many more partners are there. So because of them, this event is happening, at least digital. So thanks for joining us today, and have an awesome day. And we'll be starting our workshop right now. So I'll hand it over to our first host, which is Anurag.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Just give me a thumbs up so that we can confirm if you can hear me. Okay, awesome. So I've gotten confirmation that you can hear me. So let's get started. So as already introduced, so the topic of my discussion or the workshop that I'll be presenting is AWS fundamentals. You will get the presentation. I'll share it across on my Twitter and LinkedIn profile, and I'll also share it with Abhishek so he can send it across to you. I hope that you're able to see my screen. Can anyone confirm? Okay, so I'm trying it again. Okay, so it looks like there is some problem in screen sharing. Let me try again. No screen yet. think it should be visible now. Excellent, excellent. Okay, awesome. So the agenda of today's meeting is to understand the fundamentals of AWS. So I will walk you through. We will start right from what is cloud, then why to choose AWS. There are some basic terminologies. We look at the core services that AWS offers and how they are going to fit in your projects that you might do during this entire session, during your college life, or if you are working, then how you can incorporate the same inside your working environment. So this is the agenda of the day. We will start with the basics of cloud. We'll try to understand why AWS, and then we'll go through the topics that I have already mentioned. Okay. So let's try to understand what exactly is cloud computing. So there are two resources. There are two different sources that we are going to quote here. So Wikipedia says that cloud computing is on-demand availability of compute system resources. Okay, and they are like data resources, computing powers, and there is one important point that they have mentioned is it is without direct active management by the user. So what it means is if you want to consume the services on AWS or on any other cloud service provider, you are not the person who is going to manage the entire resources, manage the racks, manage the CPUs, manage the RAM, power, and anything that comes across while you want to run a big service. So what exactly does AWS say about it? So what AWS says is the cloud computing is on-demand delivery of IT resources. So let's pay some attention to these important words. The first word is on-demand, and then there is IT resources. So with on-demand, it means that you just request what you want, and you get all type of IT resources. You get all these services over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So we will deep dive into what exactly is pay-as-you-go as we go ahead. Okay. So how does cloud computing help you? So what cloud computing does is, if you want, let's assume that you wish to launch a product into the market, a digital product. So if you go back 20 years, what you'll have to do is you have to go purchase a server, purchase a very good internet connection, purchase a very good power system in your data center. You need to make sure that your computer is 24 by 7. So you need to pay upfront in to purchase the compute resources. You need to pay upfront to buy the networking. You need to pay upfront to manage the power for the entire resources. But if you are going with AWS, so what basically you are doing is somebody else is taking care of that for you. So all you do is you go to the internet, and from the internet you are purchasing the resources that you are interested in, and you are consuming them. You will pay for the resources for the amount that you are going to use. Okay, so if you see these two definitions, there are some common words that are standing out. So those common words are on demand, compute, storage. Okay, so these are the three words that we will concentrate mostly throughout the next couple of hours, because these are the resources that are required to get started with any IT project, with any product that you want to launch into the IT space. Okay, awesome. I hope if you have any questions during this entire session, put it in the chat and I will try to answer them in between, so that no questions are left unanswered. So this entire session has been designed in a way that it should be very helpful to people who have zero knowledge about AWS, and it will help you grasp some important concepts so that you can create an account and try it on your own. Okay, so the very first topic that we mentioned in that was pay as you go mechanism. So what basically on demand or pay as you go mechanism means is, whenever, let's say today I am sitting with my friends and I have an idea that I want to launch a mobile application which is going to, let's say, find the grocery stores that are delivering near me. So if we go back 20 years, what you would have to do is, like I mentioned before, that you need to first get a compute, then set it up the entire rack, put it in network, and then you'll be able to start to develop your entire product. But with on demand, what you can simply do is you log in into the cloud console of AWS. You say that I'm interested in getting, let's say, a little bit of compute. I need X amount of storage, and I need to do the networking in this way. So you just procured what you wanted, and you are then basically free to get started with your actual coding. So this is how easy it is to get started with cloud computing, and that is what on demand means. So you just tell them when you want it, and you get the access. Okay, the other important point is it is accessible via internet. So basically, as long as you have a handheld device, you have a tablet, a computer, and a good internet connection, you are basically ready to launch your application. Okay, you don't need to worry about capacity, you don't need to worry about when it is going to run out, as long as you are paying money, of course. So what pay-as-you-go mechanism means? So it is as simple as it works like your utilities. So right now, if you are consuming electricity, so with electricity, how exactly do you pay? So at the end of the month, the electricity bill that you receive, it says that you have consumed, let's say, 100 electrical units. Then per unit charge is, let's say, 5 rupees. So 5 into 100 plus some taxes and other components. That is how you get your electricity bill. Same thing happens with mobile phones in postpaid. So you say that this particular, I am interested in this plan, and at the end of this plan, you will pay XYZ amount. So this is how cloud computing also works. Now, let's say I have procured a server, and after 10 days, I think that, okay, if this server is no longer required, I take a backup for myself and delete that particular server. So you will only pay for the 10 days that you have used. So in traditional model, you would have to purchase the computer and keep it with you for your entire lifetime, or you'll have to resell with a significant, you could say, dent to your pocket. Okay, that is something that doesn't happen in cloud computing, and there is no upfront cost. So you are free to use it like any other utility, like electricity. So also the other important point is that if you don't like that particular service, if you don't like the vendor, so you can basically switch between vendors, you can switch between services, and there are no strings attached. Okay, let's look at some of the basics. So what exactly does cloud computing mean, that we try to understand? But there are delivery models within cloud computing that we need to know. Okay, so as this, if you see this image carefully, you will find that there are approximately 9 layers of different things that are required when you are looking at running a data center. So in traditional IT, the time before cloud, so what you need to do is you need to start from networking, storage, server, virtualization, and you need to manage basically each and every layer of this entire deployment. Now, there are three models by which you get the delivery of compute over the internet or over the cloud. That is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and then software as a service. So when we are talking about infrastructure as a service, as the diagram states, there is a vendor like Microsoft Azure or AWS, Amazon Web Services, or Google Cloud Platform, who are going to take care of your networking layer, who are going to take care of how much storage that needs to be there in that particular, you could say, availability. Then they will take care of the servers. They will install a virtualization layer on top of their entire hardware. And on that hardware, they'll give you small chunks of compute as per your requirement with a base operating system. Now, in infrastructure as a service, you get a flavor of you choose the flavor of operating system, and on top of that, you will have to manage everything. Okay, so basically what it means is, let's say I have procured a Linux server, I have Ubuntu 18.04 inside that. Then in infrastructure as a service, I will get an access to that particular operating system, and I am free to do whatever I want on top of that particular deployment. So if you look at the typical way of installing or making your APIs available over the internet, you will find that on top of the operating system, you will end up, you could say, installing middleware and runtimes like Java, JRE, JDK. And on top of that, then you will host database and then you will prepare your application. So basically, anything below the operating system level is managed by the cloud service provider, and anything above the operating system level. So operating system, there is this is a shared layer because the installation is taken care by the service provider. But anything that goes on top of operating system, any changes that you want to do in the operating system need to be handled from your end. So things like backup, recovery, these are your responsibilities. Now, the second way of the second model of cloud computing is platform as a service. So, if you see in the diagram for the stack of platform as a service, so basically you are getting everything until the runtime, and only you need to manage the only things that you need to manage is your data and the application. So to give you an example, you could say GitHub is kind of a platform as a service because the underlying network, storage, server, virtualization, operating system, middleware, and runtime. So how it is operating, that is totally abstracted away from you. All you do is check in your code and then use that application. So that is platform as a service. So here, when you request for a resource which is like a platform as a service, you tell them that I need a computer which is running Linux and which has, let's say, Django runtime and Django and Python middleware for my application. So on top of that particular entire stack, you don't need to worry about the backup and recovery, or you could say maintenance of the runtime. All you need to do is devise your data and develop your application on top of it. Now, the last model of delivery is software as a service. So when I say software as a service, so basically what I get is I get direct login into the application, and I can only use the services that the software is providing. So I don't need to worry about anything. I don't need to worry about any layer. So a good example of this delivery method would be Salesforce CRM. So I'm not sure if everybody's aware of Salesforce CRM, but the other type of, you could say, crude example would be something like Hotstar or Netflix. So all you do, the software as a service, instead of just videos, you will get something like a software to use. The other good example would be Office 365. So you create a you could say Google's G Suite. So you just get a login to your Gmail, and you can use Gmail as a software, and you don't need to worry about anything. So the changes at application, data, runtime, everything is managed by the service provider. So I hope this is clear. So when we talk about AWS, where exactly does AWS fit in this 3 or 4 deployment model? We'll get to that in a second. So far, are there any questions? Okay, so I'm assuming there are not many questions. So we will continue. So the question that now arises is, why do I need to choose AWS? So if you look at this diagram on the right is something called as the Magic Quadrant, which is released by one of the biggest companies which evaluates all these kind of services and software. It's called as Gartner. So in Gartner, you will see that AWS stands at the rightmost end. So basically, if your service is good, you will be on the right hand side and the top quadrant. So here you see that Amazon Web Services is the leader in this particular space, followed closely by Microsoft and then Google. So it has been consistently ranked as a leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for more than 4 to 5 years, if I remember it correctly. Also, one important point that you need to know is that AWS is heavily customer focused. So if you have any problems, if you have any feedback for AWS, they will listen diligently to you, and if it is feasible, they will implement it and will get back to you in the next release. Also, they have learned many things by managing the biggest e-commerce website on the internet, that is Amazon.com. So now Amazon.com is operational in almost all the continents on the country, and the scale is huge. So when they were working with such a large scale, they came across a lot of problems, and to solve those problems they created some services, and then they figured out that okay, if we are facing this kind of problems, then there could be some customers out there in the market that are also facing the same problem. So they made their solutions available over the internet in a cloud platform. That is what is Amazon Web Services. Okay, so this is a very nice, you could say, presentation of what all different services are available in Amazon Web Services. So this image has been taken from a website called as awsgeek.com. So you should definitely go out and check this website. There are a lot of nice diagrams that will help you understand very good concepts from AWS. So if you so it is trying to mimic the chemistry's periodic table. So if you look at this particular diagram, you will see that there are more than 100 services. There are more than 100 plus services for each of your different, you could say, use cases. For example, analytics, AR, VR, and mobile migration, etc. So right now, the biggest portfolio or the on the market regarding the Amazon regarding the cloud is provided by Amazon Web Services, and hence they are the leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Okay, so let's start with some basic terminologies for AWS. So the very first terminology that you need to get aware of is a region. So what exactly is a region? So a region is a geographical location where Amazon has its own data center. So the data center means that it's a physical space where they are having the racks and racks of compute, storage, and it is networked via high-speed cables to the internet as well as their own internal networking. So a region, for example, in India, there is a region in Mumbai. So Amazon Web Services won't tell you, or even it's not a public knowledge where exactly the data center lies in Mumbai. But it's a guarantee that there is a service in Mumbai that will cater to the requirements of Indian customers. So likewise, within a region, there is something called as an availability zone. So with availability zone, what exactly I mean is um, the data center is split into multiple physical locations. So within Mumbai, they will have 2 to 3 different buildings in which there will be these resources that are being hosted. So let's say compute and everything. So there will be 3 different buildings which are isolated from each other, such that if there is any natural disaster due to which one of the buildings or two of the buildings go down, there is still some capacity which is available for the customers, and your services are never down. So within Mumbai region, as of now, we have 3 different regions. Okay, so this is the span of AWS at this moment. So these are the regions that you see. So as you see, I have mentioned that there is one in Mumbai. There are multiple, you could say, multiple regions in Europe. There are multiple regions if you go into the Southeast Asia and China, you could say Japan, um, uh, then Australia. There is one coming up soon in Africa. I think it should be already online. So this image is a little bit outdated. Then there are multiple centers on North American and South American continents. So basically, irrespective of where your customer is, there is a good chance that you can be able to deploy services that are very close to your close to your customers, least amount of latency that your customers are going to that their customers are going to face. With latency, what I mean is latency is the time that it takes from your device when it makes a request to hit the server and come back. So if I'm in India and I'm trying to hit a server which is in US, the latency will be high because it needs to cover a lot of distance. But if I'm in India and I'm hitting the data center which is present in Mumbai, the latency will be low because they are geographically very close to each other. Okay, awesome. So we are going to talk about a few core services. So in this particular workshop, we are going to concentrate on these 5 core services. So these are the minimum resources that you require if you want to get started with a project anywhere you could say for any of the purposes, whether it be creating a small startup or if you just want to test out some of your ideas. So the main points that we are going to talk about is identity and access management. Then we are going to talk about compute. We are going to talk about storage. We are going to talk about databases, and then we are going to talk about networking. Okay. Okay. So the first service that we are going to look at is IAM, or Identity and Access Management. So the purpose of this identity and access management using service is to control who has access to your cloud environment as well as cloud resources. So to give you an example, when you are creating a Google email address, so when you log in, the email is available to only you. You are not going to make it available for anyone, right? So the login that you have is limited to yourself. You will be only seeing what your email is. So you are never able to see what somebody else's email is. So that is what is called as identity and access management. So identity is I am Anurag Kare. So how exactly am I going to be identified within the cloud environment? So that is identity, and access management corresponds to what kind of things I'm going to see in the cloud. So that is sorry, access management. So what is the purpose? The purpose is to identify individuals and applications that have access to your cloud console or resources. So I'll try to quickly switch over to um, the console of AWS so that we see it firsthand what an IAM console looks like. Okay, just 1 minute. Looks like sharing is not in place. Just give me 1 moment. Just give me a heads up when you can see my screen. Okay, I think the screen is visible now. So what I've basically done, what I've basically done is I've logged into my personal AWS account. So in this account, you will see that I'm identified as Anurag Kyle. So you will see that this is IAM user, and you will see this. My name is Anurag Kyle, and the name of the account is Anurag Kyle because this belongs to my personal usage. So if you are belonging to a company, if you are belonging to a cloud, you will see that. Sorry, if you belong to a company, if you belong to your organization, you will see that the name of the account will belong to the company or the organization. So right now here I'm logged into my personal account, and my name of the user is Anurag Kare. So this is now in the services. I'm sorry. So in services, I'm going to type IAM, or Identity and Access Management. So as soon as I type it, you'll see that there is a drop down which says manage access to your AWS resources. So here I'm clicking it. So that screen come up. Okay, this particular you could say sharing, you will see that there are multiple access management tools such as groups, users, roles, policies, and the other we are not going to look at this moment. Okay, so users are basically the people that have access to this particular cloud account. So here you see that since it's my personal account, only I have the access to this particular account, and if I want, I can add multiple users here. But creating a user does not entitle him to access to this particular cloud account. You need to assign him a role. So a role is basically a group of policies that define what kind of access, what kind of resources the user will be able to access. So in policies you define, let's say for example, that Anurag Kale should be able to use the virtual machines. So we will get to what exactly is a virtual machine in a moment. So this is just to give you a brief example. Okay, so likewise you can create groups. So basically a group is a collection of multiple you could say permissions that you wish to assign to a group of users. So basically, let's take an example that in your company you have support people, you have development group, and you have testing group. So if you know, for testers, all you need is a read access. For developers, you need read write access. But if you have administrators, you need to give them full access. So within this particular group section, you can create three groups: one for developers, one for support team, and one for testers. So in the testers, then you can assign them policies, and in policies, you will define that testers will get read access to service number 1, 2, 3, 4. And similarly, in developers policies, in policies you will say that the persons will get access to uh, read and write access to service 1, 2, 3. And in administration, you could say policies, you will say that you get a full access to. So we are not going to look at each of these in details because time is not going to permit that. But I just gave you a brief overview of how exactly that would look like. Okay, so we will get back to the presentation and go ahead with our next services. So we saw what exactly is IAM. So IAM is to identify individuals and applications, so that you know who are going to access your compute and all the resources that are available in the cloud account. Okay. So the next important point that we are going to talk about is compute. So when I say compute, what basically I mean is I mean that how many CPUs and how much of a RAM do I need for my application. Now let's say you are in market to purchase yourself a laptop. So what you are going to say is, this is my XYZ budget, and I'm looking for a Core i5 kind of computer, and I need at least 8 GB of RAM. Okay, so in this, if you put the compute to the context, we are putting the compute to the context of a laptop. We are the components of CPU, GPU, the graphics processing unit. Uh, these constitute together as a compute. Okay, so within AWS, there are multiple services that will help you provide compute. So one such service, and one of the biggest service we have is called as Elastic Compute Cloud, or the short form is called as EC2. So what basically EC2 is, it's a resizable compute capacity. So with this EC2 service, what you can do is you can launch virtual machines with the operating systems. So if you remember the infrastructure as a service model, there you saw that anything on top of the operating system is your responsibility. So these EC2 instances are basically delivering services under the infrastructure as a service model. So under the infrastructure as a service model, you are getting a virtual machine with pre-installed operating system of your choice. So there are multiple choices, like you can choose between Ubuntu, CentOS, Red Hat Linux, Windows, anything that you basically wish. So every machine that you spin up, spawn, or create is called as an instance within AWS. So how exactly your compute is charged? So you are charged for the number of hours you are running that particular. Okay. Quickly go to the AWS console, and we will spin up an instance for you so that you understand how easy it is to uh, create a compute. Okay, so I'm going back to my console. So here you see the AWS management console. So in the AWS management console, if you go to all services, you just type in here EC2. Here you will see there are a lot of services that come up which have EC2 as a term inside them. We are only interested in the first one, that is EC2. It says virtual compute in the cloud. So this is the you could say uh, dashboard that you see when you open the EC2 instance service. So there are one running instance because I'm running my website out of these AWS console. So if I go to instances, you will see that there is already one instance which is running, and it is I'm using it to host a WordPress blog. So now let's say I have a new idea that I want to test out and I want to launch a compute instance. So all you need to do is you need to go to launch instance button here on the top. If you click that, it will redirect us to a page. Now in the quick start page, you will see that there are a lot of operating systems that you can choose from. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to choose Amazon Linux. So Amazon Linux is nothing but a flavor of Linux which is made available by Amazon. So I select here. So here you can choose the architecture type of your Linux instance. So it could be a 64-bit x86 based or ARM based. x86 basically roughly translates to Intel based. So Intel or even AMD based, and ARM based services are different. So I'm choosing Linux instance. So here, once you go to this second screen, you will see that it is giving me a different. It is giving me the types of the different types of instances with the CPUs and memory attached to it. Okay. So let's say, for example, here on the left side, you see there is a family, then there is type, then how many CPUs and memory that you want. Okay, so for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to choose the T2 micro instance, which has one CPU and 1 GB of memory. So now, if you just click on the filter type, you will see that there are a lot of different types of instances that you can choose. So here you see general purpose, compute optimized, CPU instance, memory instance, and storage optimized. What are those? We will get to that in the next slide. Okay. Now I'm clicking on configure instance details. So in these details, we will have to choose the configuration for your instance. So right now, these details are you could say too much for you to understand. So we will keep them at the basic settings. The next thing that you need to do is you need to add storage. So with storage, there are multiple options that you have. So here you can see the volume type. It says general purpose, provisioned, or magnetic. So SSD is solid state drives, and magnetic is your general HDD. SSD generally give better performance. So for the sake of this, you could say demo, we are going to choose SSD. Next, you can add some tags. So basically, tags will help you identify if this instance belongs to project 1, project 2, project 3. So this is completely optional. If you want, you can add. But if in general, it is a good practice to add to have a fixed set of tags and add a key value pair to that particular tags. The next step is you need to configure the security group. So the security group is basically the first firewall that prevents abuse to your compute resources. So here it says that there are two options. You can either create a new security group or you can attach a already existing security group. So if I click on create a new security group, let's say I'm going to give this name as my demo security group. Okay, so in this group we will see that you can assign different rules by which you can use particular EC2 instance. Now let's say, for example, as the first rule that you see is SSH. So SSH is basically someone who can you need to define who can log in into the server. So the source right now, if I put it as my IP, it will choose my IP address, and only the computer with this particular IP address will be able to SSH into this particular instance. Now you can add multiple rules. So let's say, for example, I want that the let's say I'm hosting a database on top of this EC2 instance. Then I want MySQL port to be exposed. So MySQL runs out of port 3306. So on this particular 3306, now I'm going to allow access from a custom or anywhere or from my IP. When you say custom, let's say my application server is running on 10.0.0.1. That means any connections that are coming on port 3306 will be accepted by this security group. Now you need to understand here that anything apart from what has been declared on the screen is blocked by default by Amazon Web Services or the security group. So whenever you create a new security group, you need to make sure that you have the right amount of access set on the security group. So you don't need to be very liberal. Also, you don't need to be very conservative. You just need to provide the right amount of security that you need for this instance, depending on your project. Okay, so the now next step is we are done through all this everything. So the next step is review and launch. Okay, okay, I made a mistake here. Okay, now let's say now this is now at the end. Uh, you will be able to see the launch screen. Here you can review whatever you have chosen. So from step one, whatever you have chosen is available as a summary page. So here you see AMI details. That is the machine image that you have chosen. So here we have chosen Amazon Linux. Then we have you could say instance type. Then we have security group. There is some details of the instance. We also see what kind of storage that we have chosen, and then there is tags as well. Okay, now if I click launch, it is going to ask me to create a new key pair. So this key pair is used to log in into the instance. So Amazon uses something called as public private key configuration. So in this configuration, when you download this key, I'm sorry, when you download this keeper, using this particular PEM file, you will be able to log in into this instance. So I'll click here, log in into, I'll create a new key pair, and I'm going to name the key pair as uh, demo MLH. Okay. Now I need to download this key pair. Now once downloaded, you need to understand that if you lose the access to this spam file, you will lose access to your computer. So you have to be very careful about keeping and storing this private file or PEM file. Now, when I say launch instance, you will see that yeah, it is saying that your instance is now launching. Now, if I click here, you will see that the instance is in the status of the instance is pending. So basically, it is starting the virtual machine for me. So let's give it a minute, and then you will see that our instance has been launched. Okay, it is available now. So the instance is now running. So this is how simple it is to create a server inside AWS. So this is the EC2 instance that we are talking about. Okay. Now, since the demo is over, what I'm going to do is, in order to not incur charges, I'm going to destroy this particular instance. So to do that, you go into actions, you go into instance state, and you say stop and terminate. There are two options for you. So there is a basic difference between stop and terminate. So if you stop, so it will you will only stop incurring the charges for the compute capacity that you use. But if you remember, we have attached a hard disk to this particular instance. So that hard disk charge is still going to incur to you. But in my demo, and I no longer require this instance, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say terminate. So when I say it gives me a warning that the EBS volume, the hard disk which is attached to this, is also going to delete. I'm fine with it, and I'm just going to say yes, terminate. Okay. So now the instance is shutting down. First it will shut down and then it will terminate. Okay, I see a question here. So the question is, how do I add multiple IPs in the same group? So for that, in the security group, you can add multiple lines against the same, you could say, access that you are looking for. So let's say, example, you want to give SSH access to 4 computers that are at different locations. So you can add 4 lines for the SSH rule, and for those 4 lines it will then provide access. What you can also do is, let's say if your computers are in network, you can define the network range by using subnetting, and then for that SSH, any connections that are coming from that particular subnet will be allowed by default by AWS. Okay, I hope this answers the question. Okay, so that was EC2 instances for you. So let's get back to the presentation. Okay, so in this presentation, we saw everything that you can see on the screen. Now let's talk about the instance type that I said I will talk about it later. So on the screen that you saw, we saw a drop down where it mentioned general purpose, memory optimized, storage optimized, and high GPU instances or GPU instances. So what are these? So these instances are for these particular workloads. Now, for example, if you are, let's say you are running a web server. So in the web server, what you need is you need compute optimized servers, because you are doing a lot of computation in that particular server. Or if, let's say, you have a requirement wherein you are running big data kind of workload. So in big data, you need to do a lot of number crunching. So you need a good CPU power. So in that cases, unfortunately, that is not mentioned in this slide. So you need to choose compute optimized resources. Now, let's say I'm running an in-house running a database server which requires in-memory kind of capacity. So in-memory basically means is you want to keep as much data as possible in your RAM for quicker access. So in that particular case, you will choose memory optimized service. Now we are looking. Let's say you are creating a FTP server wherein you are just trying to save a lot of files. So in that case, storage becomes very critical. So in that case, you will choose storage optimized server. But now let's say you are getting started and you are not sure about the exact requirement, or you are running a very, you could say, simple application that does not have a huge workload, then you can just go ahead with the general purpose ones. So within this instance type, if you choose memory optimized, you will find that the ratio of compute to resources is compute to memory is different than when you compare it to the ratio with the other types of you could say uh, the other types of instant types. So for example, in general purpose, you will find that there is, for one CPU you can have one RAM, 1 GB RAM, or 2 GB RAM. But in memory optimized, you can have, for 2 CPUs you can have up to 16 or 32 GBs of RAM. So that kind of you could say resources that are important, those are adjusted. So for each of these instance type, the billing is going to be different. So you need to be sure that you need to check the billing before you are running the instance types, because each of these instance type bear a different kind of charges. So that was compute for you. But is EC2 the only compute type? Then yeah, no. The answer is no. So EC2 is one of the compute types, and this is very good for beginners. So that is why I started with EC2. Apart from EC2, what you can have is there are services like Elastic Beanstalk. So that is a managed service. So what managed service means is it takes care of things like backup, recovery, and it attaches other components like Elastic Notebook, many more stuff. So there are a lot of services within cloud computing that can be bundled together as a package, and it is delivered to you in a fully managed manner, so that you don't need to invest your time in managing those type of deployments. So if that is your use case, you need to go with Elastic Beanstalk. for cases where, let's say, you don't have a lot of resources in your company. But if you have Linux administrators, if you have Windows administrator, then you are good to go with the EC2 instances, which will save you some money, and you will get your task done. Okay, there are other types as well. So there is another you could say paradigm that is coming into which is getting very much popular these days, which is called as serverless computing or function as a service. So basically, what you do is you write your code and you let Amazon and the cloud provider figure out how they are going to run it. So you are charged for the number of times your code is being called. So that is called as serverless paradigm. And if time permits, we will look into the serverless paradigm in brief at the end. So, okay, so we are now moving to the next important point, that is storage. So if you look at the basic, you could say, requirements of any application, you need compute, you need storage, you need networking, and you also sometimes need databases, right? So the second biggest pillar, because second strongest pillar that you require is storage. So what basically storage means is somewhere to keep your files, somewhere to store your data, right? So there are two categories of storage that we are talking about. So there are object-based stores and there are block storages. So what I mean by object-based store. So let's say when you're trying to access services like Google Drives. So all you do is, let's say, upload your PDF or upload your image on Google Drive, and you don't worry about how things are being implemented on the behind. So if it is stored in which kind of hard disk, which drive, which folder, you don't worry about that. So that is nothing but an object store. So an object store is a place where the entry point or the thing that you manage is an object. So this object can be anything: image, music, PDF. Uh, that is called as object store. And when I say block-based storage, we are referring to the hard disks. So within hard disk, we saw that there were three types when we were trying to launch the EC2 instance, if you remember. So there was this magnetic type, then there was SSDs, and there was provisioned IOPS SSD. So these fall under the elastic block storage or EBS. And then there are other supporting services like Snowball, elastic file systems, that are basically extensions and are specific use cases of the multiple you could say storage types. So the biggest you could say the biggest service for storage within AWS is called as Amazon S3. So Amazon S3 basically refers to simple storage service. So that is a object-based store wherein which kind of similar which you can relate to as Google Drive. So there you create one folder, and inside that folder you can upload as many documents or as many files as you want. Okay. Then we talked about elastic block storage, wherein you are creating the hard disk drives which you are going to connect to your compute resources. So one of the compute resources that we saw was EC2 instances, and we attached a elastic block storage in form of those say SSD when we created the instance. Okay. Then within S3 there are depending on your use case, there are different tiers of how the data is managed. So let's say you want a data backup system. So what backup means is you want to delete the data from your main system, but you want that data to be available for the customers for next 5 years. But since that data is not required on day-to-day basis, what you can do is, with the data for your 4 years, you can put it inside S3 and mark it as a glacier. So what a glacier does is it keeps that data. It keeps that data as because it is infrequently accessed, and they charge you less when it compares to S3. Okay, so Amazon S3. So there are multiple classes like we talked about. So there is a single class, then there is Glacier, which is one of its type. Again, like I mentioned earlier, you can go to awsgeeks.com and you will find all these diagrams which are open source available for us for you to use. Okay, let's quickly go to the console to take a look at S3. Okay, so I'm back at the AWS Management Console, and I'm sharing my screen. So again, in Find Services, you just type S3. So there you see S3 Scalable Storage in Cloud. So now I'm clicking on S3. It's taking a moment to come up. Just give me a second. That's strange. Okay, I think there might be some trouble with my internet, which it's not coming up. We'll come back to we'll come back to that S3 demo in a short while. So until that, let's continue. Okay. See the so we talked about object storage. We talked about EBS, so the block storage. We used EBS when we created an EC2 instance. Now the other important part that you need when you are creating any solution is you need databases. So within AWS, there is a huge pool of you could say different services that can be used. Sorry, huge pool of services in the database domain. So you have all types of domain like relational, and within relational databases like Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, PostgreSQL. You also have support to NoSQL databases like MongoDB, MongoDB compatible document DB. Then there is NoSQL key value based database like DynamoDB. You have capabilities of creating data lakes by using S3. You have graph based database in the form of Neptune. You have time stream databases for sharing you could say event based application. Then you can also have something called as a cache based database. So there are multiple services available. So uh, I'll try to get back to our console. Okay, I think the S3 is finally up. So, so in Amazon S3, like we spoke about, what Amazon S3 is, it's a object-based storage. So here, basically, it acts like your Google Drive. So when you go inside Amazon S3, every folder that you create is called as a bucket. So now let's say I am clicking here on create bucket. So it is asking me the name of the bucket. So now you need to understand that the bucket names are public in nature. So if I create a bucket which is already taken by somebody else, then I won't be able to create a bucket with that particular bucket name. So here there is a link to look at the rules of the bucket names. So just to avoid any conflicts, I'm going to create a bucket name with my name. That is, and now I'm going to create bucket. So there are multiple rules. So here you see that underscore is not allowed. So I'm going to remove the underscore, and it cannot also have upper cases. So likewise, there are multiple rules that you need to be that you will be able to go through on that particular name. Now I hope this bucket name is available, and then let's say now I'm going to Okay, we are receiving some slowness from AWS console. In the meanwhile, let's look at the different database offerings from AWS. So here I'm going to click on RDS. So here you see it is when I click RDS, it says Managed Relational Database Service. I'm clicking on Relational Database Services, and I hope this page comes up quick. Yes, awesome. So here we see that we have we are logged in. We are now on the dashboard of Amazon RDS. You'll see I have not launched any DB instance, but we can, what we can do is we will quickly create an instance in using PostgreSQL, and we will see how easy it is to launch databases in AWS. So now I'm here at the databases screen. On this screen, you will see there is a button called as Create Database. So now I'm going to click here at Create Database. Okay. Now there are multiple options here, so I'm going to stick with standard for the sake of simplicity. Now you see, like I mentioned, within RDS there are multiple you could say offerings from AWS. So the very first is Amazon Aurora, then there is MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, Oracle, and Microsoft SQL Server. Sorry. Um, So what Aurora is again a relational database service provided by Amazon. So what they have done is they have tweaked the performance of Amazon. Sorry, they have tweaked the performance of MySQL and PostgreSQL, and they have created their own service of Aurora, their own database offering, which is performing a little bit better than what a general you could say general deployment of MySQL or Postgres would do. For the demo purposes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my engine option as PostgreSQL. So you can choose MySQL, but you cannot choose Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server because you need to bring in the licenses for those engines. So so if you see MySQL, MariaDB, and Postgres, these are open source databases. Oracle and SQL Server is paid, and Aurora is the in-house offering from Amazon. So I'm choosing Microsoft PostgreSQL. Now there is an option that I can choose the multiple, you could say, versions of the PostgreSQL that I want. So for the sake of this demo, I'm going to choose, let's say, Postgres 12. But if you see, you can go back up to Postgres 10. So you will have support to the offerings of all this engine depending on their public availability. So likewise, if I click on MySQL, you will see that right now you can launch a MySQL 8 instance, but you have service. You can create instances up to MySQL 5.5, which is still kind of supported by Oracle. So I'm going to choose Postgres. Let's go back to Postgres again. I'm going to choose Postgres 12. Okay. Now there are this template. So in this template, they are asking what exactly is the use case for it. So is it production, is it dev test, or is it free tier? So since we are using you could say sample AWS accounts, we will choose free tier. So here I need to give the name to the database instance. Let's say I will name it as MLH database instance. So here you can define, you need to define the master username of the database. So let's say I'm going to name it as this one. Then I also need to create a password. This will be the password of the very you could say admin user that you require to access the database. Now you need to choose the DB instance size. Now since we have chosen free tier here, there is only one instance type that is DB2 micro. But let's say if I choose dev test now, you will see that the options get larger and larger. But again, depending on your use case, you choose the size of these databases. And in this databases also you will find that there are classes. There is standard class, memory optimized classes, and burstable classes. So depending on the use case, this is a choice that your solution architect or application architect will take care of, and you can choose the size of your database. So for this purpose of demo, we will again choose free tier, and we will go ahead with the T2 micro. Now I need to define the storage that I'm interested in. So again, we are referencing the EBS volumes that we also saw in EC2 instances. So here we have general purpose SSD or provision IOPS SSD. So I'm going to go ahead with general purpose SSD, and you can define the storage. So the minimum storage that you require is 20 GB and maximum is very high. Okay. And if you click on enable storage auto scaling, what happens is once your database hits 20 GB, the Amazon will auto scale and increase the size of the of your database instance as and when you uh, add more data to your application. So here in availability and durability, you see this is grayed out right now. This is grayed out because we are in free tier. But if you are under production, you will see that you will be able to click on multi-AC deployment. So multi-AC deployment means that there is a active backup, a synchronous backup, which is running for you in a different availability zone. So if you remember, we talked about availability zone at the beginning. Within a region, there are three data centers in AWS Mumbai region. So let's say your database is hosted on Mumbai region 1, then AWS will create a copy of that particular database in the region 2 within without you knowing about it. So if by some chances the hardware fails on the very first availability zone, you still have a backup which is running. You still have a database which is running um, uh, in availability zone 2, and without any downtime to your application, you can switch over to the other database, and your user will not even know if there was any downtime. Okay. So in terms of connectivity, I'm going to choose default VPC. So what is VPC? We are going to cover it under the networking section, and you need to provide authentication based. So here we have chosen you could say password based authentication, but you can also use the IAM users or user password that we created at the beginning, and that's it. Then I need to click on create database. So when I click on create database, it has started creating the database for me. So here you see the status that it says it is still creating. So it will take a minute. So until that time, we'll go to S3. So yes, so you can see that this particular bucket has now been S3 bucket has now been created. So now what you can do is you can go inside this bucket. So we are going back to S3 until the time the database is starting. Okay, so here you see this is nothing. It looks a little bit like Drive. So here you can click on upload, and you can add files or browse. So if I say add files, it opens up on my computer's you could say application window where I can choose the files that I can upload to this particular folder. Now let's say for the sake of example, we will choose a document. Now I have chosen a document to upload, and I can just click on upload. So here you see that now the document is successfully uploaded in this particular S3 bucket. Now this S3 bucket, so the accesses of this S3 bucket depends upon the properties and permissions that you are going to set on this. So right now what I have done is I have blocked all public accesses. What that basically means is I will be able to access what is available in this particular bucket. But if I want this file to be need to be available, then I can define different properties. I can define you can do the management, and you can define who all can have access to this particular file by setting up you could say file level or bucket level permissions. Okay. Now when I uploaded this particular you could say particular file, this has created a object URL. So if I click on this object URL, it is basically saying to me that this is now the access is denied. But if I had kept this file as public, so if I make it public, then right now we have not set up the appropriate permission. So if I make this file as public, then using that particular link, you can access that object all over the internet. But that is not something that you should be doing unless you are you are hosting static web pages on Amazon S3. So Amazon S3 is object storage. Here I put a dockets file at this moment, but you can put any kind of files on top of in this particular bucket. So where you can use S3 bucket, so you can use S3 bucket as a source of storage in your application. So for example, you have multiple images that are being uploaded from your customer website for your profile pages. So what you can do is you can create a bucket for the profiles for your application, and you can store all these images in this particular folder. Now, only the services within AWS will be able to access that if I'm going to set the access level as not public. You need to define the accesses on folder level or the bucket level, and then only the other services will be able to interact with the S3 group. Now let's go back to the relational database. So if I just click service, the status is still configuring. Let's give it a moment. Okay. If I just click back here, you will see that the database is kind of available now. So this is your endpoint. So this using this endpoint, you'll be able to access your database in your application or you could say the client tools in client tools from your website. Sorry, from your computer like Data Grid or anything of that sort. Okay, and you will see that the security group is also need to be defined. So the security group that we created for EC2 instance is also that is something that you need to create for relational databases as well. So if I create a security group, you will find that inbound rule. So right now the security group is allowing protocol from all the sources from this particular security group. So you can here you can edit the inbound rules and you can add the rule and add all these kind of different you could say different uh, rules that you want to attach to this particular instance. So this is how simple it is to create a database inside AWS. So now you can use this you could say databases for anything that you want. So let's go back to the database console, and since the work is done, what I'm going to do is I can delete, snapshot, or stop this particular database. So since the work is done, I can do is delete this instance. Okay. So we're just requesting and making sure that you really want to delete the application. Okay, you cannot delete it because the status is still backing up. So the initial backup is in progress. So once the status becomes available, so you will be able to delete or stop or do anything that you want. So because you see here the stop and reboot action are also grayed out. This is because the database is not completely available. The status is backup. So within 3 to 4 minutes or 5 minutes, you will be able to create a database on top of AWS. Let's go back to the presentation. Okay, there is this question this question. What it takes to access the S3 file stored at vendor from my user application? So that's a very good question. So S3, what S3 does is you can define the different user groups, user roles. You can use IAM in conjunction with S3, with which you can define the different accesses that you want on your S3 bucket. So if a customer is having a S3 bucket and he has added you in his IAM roles or I as an IAM user, he can provide access to you directly. Or what he can also do is he can make that particular objects, you could say object as read only if it's not critical, and then it is accessible via internet. So you will be able to, you could say you will be able to define uh, granular level of accesses on top of S3, which will help you control the accesses, and also your application and your users will be able to interact with it depending on the policies that you have defined on top of your S3 bucket. So I have not covered that particular topic here because it's a bit of an advanced topic and needs understanding of JSON document quite a bit. Okay, so we only saw RDS at this point in the relational database. Okay, so there is another question: can we put the S3 buckets into subnets? So if you are referring to the subnets of VPC, then the answer is no, because S3 is a global service, and so there is a difference. So when we go into VPC, we will understand what a subnet is, but we cannot put S3 into subnets. That's what, yeah. So we just saw the relational or RDS part of the, you could say the database component. But apart from that, there are these other databases that are available on AWS. For example, there is TimeStream, there is Neptune. So TimeStream is for storing your IoT based data or the data which has timestamps associated with it. So this can be used when there are some, you could say, when you are interacting with IoT, you will find that you are getting data regarding the status of that IoT device every second. But the storage, if you store that particular data in plain text or the way the general relational database is storing, it is going to uh, take a huge amount of data, and you will start running out of the memory quite a bit. So what they have done is, for that particular kind of, you could say, workload, there are some compressions that can be used, which will make the time stream access patterns, accessing the time stream data very effective. So they have created these services. They have optimized the database so that you can use the database which has timestamp based values, and they have created a service called as timestamp. So Neptune is your graph database. So basically, if you remember the graph theory, so in graph theory you have like different nodes, and if you want, you can traverse between multiple nodes and uh, try to create authentication, or no, sorry, try to create relationships between these nodes. So that is where you use Neptune database. So Neptune database comes in handy when for applications like when you are trying to create recommendation systems, or you are trying to create features like in Facebook, the people you may know. So there is a highly relational kind of, highly hierarchical data that is present for your requirements. Then there is document DB, which mimics the use case of uh, MongoDB. There is Aurora. We saw Aurora. It's a relational database. There is QLDB. So QLDB basically means that it is a blockchain-based database. But only thing that they have done is they have stripped the requirement of having a consensus, which is required for blockchain. So this is more, QLDB is more of a requirement where you require immutable data, but you don't need multiple parties coming into picture to make sure that the entries in the blockchain are moderated or federated. And there is elastic cache, which is used for caching. The Dynamo is key value based key, and then there is elastic search, which is used for searching on top of your multiple, you could say, values. Okay, that basically concludes our database section, and now let's go to the networking section. So in networking section, what basically what we are going to look at is we are going to look at uh, VPC. So VPC basically refers to virtual private cloud. So what you can do in VPC is you can have software defined networks within AWS. So what software defined network basically means is without touching a cable, you can create a network within AWS deployments that will allow you to mimic the different you could say networking paradigms that you generally see in your on premises. So each VPC that you create within AWS is isolated from other VPC. So this is typically useful when I want to isolate my resources from one project to another project. So basically, by default, if I create two VPCs, then a resource from VPC one cannot communicate in any ways with VPC two. So when we want to put together the bundle of, let's say, web front end, middleware, and back end and database close to each other, you put them in a single VPC. So likewise, for your entire applications, you can create a lot of different you could say VPCs. By default, VPC, what it does it blocks access to your VPC by default. So you have another layer of protection for your AWS resources from the internet. So until and unless you explicitly define the access, it is not accessible via the internet. Okay, so we talked a little bit about compute, and in the compute, I mentioned that there is this new paradigm of serverless, which is creating quite a buzz these days. So what exactly is serverless? So let's go back to the way we are deploying or the way we are putting application together at this moment. So you create a VPC instance, and on top of VPC instance, you deploy your Java application or Python application, Django application, .NET application, whatever the case might be. Now let's say you have provisioned two CPUs and 8 GB of the RAM, 8 GB of your RAM. But you are observing that some days only 30% of your compute power is utilized, but on let's say weekends, you are using 80% of your compute power. But since you are using 80% of compute power at weekend, what you do is you still have to keep the size of that particular resource so that you can accommodate the 80% of use cases. Sorry, 80% of the traffic which is coming on weekend. But for the weekdays, for the 5 days, you have over provisioned. You have taken a capacity which is not required, but you are still paying for those 5 days because you have provisioned for the worst case scenario. So this basically has created a new paradigm of development, which is called as serverless. So what serverless means is so the Amazon says to you that why don't you concentrate on creating the code for your application and let me handle how I'm going to deploy it, where I'm going to deploy it. So basically what you do is in the application of your choice, you write something close to a function, and that function's code you are going to deploy in AWS. Now in AWS, what happens in the background is every time there is a call to that particular function, one particular container is created in the background. It makes the process, it creates, whenever there is a call, it spins up a container, it runs that particular code in that container, it processes the entire information, and when the connection is closed, it destroys the container. So basically, depending on number of hits that your function is getting, the number of you could say containers are being created at the background. So now the management of creating the containers, assigning them the you could say CPU and compute, it is all taken care by Amazon. So all you need to concentrate is on the code and the usability of that particular code. Now you might say, how would it handle a peak load? This handle for scales is, let's say there are 4 simultaneous requests to that particular function, then in the background, four different containers are being created and they run in parallel, so that no single function is being shared across the resources. So this way, you are charged for the number of hits, the number of calls that are being made to this particular function. So in serverless deployment paradigm, what you do is you don't need to provision or manage any server. So all you need to do is write a function, deploy the function, and depending on the number of calls that you are making to that function, you will be charged. Okay, so what are the benefits? So basically, the complexity of hosting is abstracted away from the user. Again, you are charged for invocation of the function. So basically, let's say over the weekdays, you only had 15. People visiting your website, but on the weekend you saw 10,000 people visiting your website. So you will be charged for 10,015 invocations only. Okay, and the another point is it can virtually scale infinitely. So instead of 10,000, if next week your website gets 100,000 hits or 1 lakh hits, then also you will get fairly the same performance, given that your database and also can scale to that particular level. You will get the same, you could say, response time for the number of hits that you are getting to your application. So that is basically serverless. Okay, so what is the compute component of serverless within AWS is called as AWS Lambda. But if you look at the other services, like I'll go back to the database slide. So in this database slide, you see there is this particular deployment called as DynamoDB. So DynamoDB is also a serverless database. So basically what it means is if your database on top of the database, you are using only 10 GB of your storage, then you need to pay for only 10 GBs and the number of reads and writes that are occurring on top of your database. So that is how serverless paradigm is. So there are multiple different services that run in the same paradigm. If you want, if you wish, you can just note them down for a quick reference. So your S3 that we saw is also serverless because you are not managing any not managing any servers. There is this service called as SQS or simple queue service that is serverless. Then we have a similar topic called similar service called as SMS or simple notification service that is also serverless. So likewise, there are multiple serverless, you could say, services that are available within AWS, and you can create an entire application right from front end to database using the entire serverless paradigm. So this serverless paradigm is something which is catching up in this industry, and it has a lot of potential to scale. So basically, all you need is an expertise from your end to write the code. Anything and everything related to infrastructure DevOps is you are outsourcing it to AWS. Okay, so this concludes basically concludes the basic overview of AWS and the core services that you need to get started and get running, getting to explore. So what you can do is, if you want to read further, these are some of the resources that I generally recommend to my friends. So go over to AWS White Papers website and check out AWS overview of AWS. Then there is this another white paper of architecting on AWS, storage options on the cloud, and well architected framework. So if you look at these 4 papers and read out them page to page, end to end, you will get a very good idea of how AWS operates and how you can use AWS. There are also other resources that you can use, and if you are interested, but the AWS white papers are free to use. If you have the resources to purchase, then only go for the other resources. So there is this official study guides for AWS exams are a good source. There is this book called as AWS in Action, so which is the only book that I saw in the market that talks in terms of the actual ways of implementing and using the services. And then if you are looking for good, you could say, uh, video lectures, then you should definitely check out Linux Academy or eCloud Guru. Okay, so that is it from my end for this entire scope. This in the last 1 hour 45 minutes approximately. you have a good overview of what you can expect in AWS and how you can get started. So I'm open to this. I'm open to questions. So I'll give you next 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, just put down in the chats and I'll try to answer. Okay, awesome. So in case you have any other questions, if there were some questions unanswered, then I would definitely recommend you to get in touch with me over I'm active over Twitter as well as LinkedIn. So here are my Twitter and LinkedIn handles. So let me quickly go back to them. Okay, I'm available on Twitter as at the rate I ANURAG and on LinkedIn in slash ANURAG. So if you have any questions, feel free to go to these platforms and drop me a message. I will definitely answer them in the best of my capabilities. Okay, awesome. Over to you, Abhishek. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anurag, for your very deep insights on AWS stack. I guess we have a last question, if you
Mhm.
can answer.
Yes, please. Okay. What it takes to access? Yes. So this question is a good question. So the question is like, I want to access a S3 file that's stored at vendor from my user app. Am I supposed to fetch the files from S3 storage of the client? So yes, you what you can within AWS, what you can do is you can provide access to people that you can provide access to other applications via using their SDK. So AWS has you could use SDK in your application, and you get something called as secret access key and private access key from AWS when it creates a AWS user for you. Once that AWS user is created for you, it can um, you can basically access into that particular storage into that particular folder. So the end user, your client, defines the access levels, and they provide you the secret access key. Using that secret access key, you can access all the components that are made available to you by the customer. Okay, I hope this answers the question.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anurag. I think we don't have any more questions now. Uh,
Yep.
and your session was very insightful. Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you for
And
having me.
uh, yes, and if you could share your slides so I can share it into my
Absolutely.
peers or yes, okay.
Okay,
So
I'll share.
we'll have some short break so that Jayesh will come live and we'll get started in around 5 minutes.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
so
Bye
much,
bye.
Anurag. Bye bye bye. So, guys, we are having a short break of 5 minutes so that our next speaker will join us in 5 minutes. So okay, so we have our next speaker. We'll start a new session with him now. So good morning, Jayesh.
Good morning.
And we had a very nice, insightful session with Anurag, and it's just done. So we had a 5 minutes break. So if you are good to go, then we can start your session right now.
Sure, just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure. So right, we have Jayesh with us right now, and he'll be starting session on Twilio 101. He'll give a basic insights on Twilio dashboard and all, and how you can use Twilio in your personal projects. So I hope that will help you learning something new today. So over to you, Jayesh, from now.
Sure. So thanks, Abhishek. Hello, everyone. Hope you are doing fine and staying home safely. So we will start with our session. So talking about what is Twilio. So Twilio. So when we talk generally about technology or the industry today, we have two different domains we are dealing with: software application and communication systems. So many people are confused where to put Twilio in, because it deals with the softwares as well as it runs the whole communication systems in the backend. So how you deal with the where do you put Twilio? What is Twilio in fact? So Twilio can integrate the software application with your communication systems. Otherwise, it can also act as a communication system which uses software at some extent. So it's a good mix of both of this domain. It takes software applications at the back end or communication system at the back end, or anything at the front end, and it deals with the both of the things, and you help you integrate both of the things very well. So what are the goals for today's session? We will walk away with the new ideas, how people are using Twilio, how people are using it for multiple purposes. Then we'll go through some demos and real world examples, and that should give us a fair idea of what is Twilio, what are Twilio APIs, and how people are using them, and how can we work around them, and how can we integrate them into our own software, so our own applications. So talking about the communication systems, communication is a very important part in today's world. Forget about this whole very important part of our life. And in business domain as well, the communication makes very sense, because even if you talk about Uber, Zendesk, Airbnb, Salesforce, and many more companies, the communication is a key in a contact center support, or the customer feedback. All those are based on the communication only. So who uses Twilio? There are many companies who are using Twilio in their applications. These are some of those. So you can see some familiar names over here. So talking about what Twilio exactly is. So Twilio is basically three things. It provides you programmable communication cloud. What comes under this programmable communication cloud? So suppose you want to build a system which uses SMS as at its core. Like you want to build a contact center which works on SMS, or you want to build a customer feedback system which works via SMS or emails, and you want to automate that thing, or you want to suppose you want to do a sentiment analysis over the feedbacks. So you can use the programmable, you can use the services which are provided by Twilio here. So that is how it's a programmable communication cloud. It provides a most comprehensive suite of cloud communication APIs. Going ahead, it's a super network. So most of the companies, including Gartner, defines Twilio as a super network. It's a globally interconnected software powering the flywheel of a growth. It has many of the services around the communication industry, and it makes it a super network of services. Twilio is a business model for innovators. So when we talk about a Twilio, that there's only your imagination is a skill. So you can build anything around anything around communication with the using the softwares like even if you know Python, you know JavaScript, any of the language, you can build cool things around Twilio, and it works heavily. It works heavily based on the software stack you're using, and it helps businesses to build a revolutionary services. Like if you talk about Uber, you might have noticed, like before one or 1.5 year, Uber announce this service, like the mobile number masking. When you book a cab, your driver won't see your number, and so as you won't see your driver's number. So that is keeping privacy of the both your driver as well as rider, and that whole thing is based on Twilio. So this kind of disruptive business models can be built using Twilio, which puts the customer first. So talking about the first thing, we have seen the programmable communication cloud. So Twilio started providing services in 2008, and in 2008 Twilio announced the programmable voice, which includes some of the services around the voice APIs. Then in 2010, there was a programmable messaging, which includes the automated messaging, which includes the automated replies and contact centers and all that stuff. In 2015, there were services around programmable videos. So currently, if we go to the current Twilio stack, yes. So currently, when we go to the solutions, you will find Twilio Flex. You will find marketing campaigns, which you can automate using the Twilio APIs. Then in the services, there are services like identity, intelligence, and orchestration. In identity, there's a service like Lookup, which which works as a fraud detection service, or lead conversion system, or improves the message delivery. Then there's a Verify, which prevent the fraudulent account creation using phone number validation. There's a Authi. Authi is a use case API service. So all of these are. How the use case API service works. So most of you might know about two-factor authentication, right? So in the two-factor authentication thing, there's a whole lot of services which you need to integrate and build a complete stack to provide a two-factor authentication. But Authi simplifies this for you. Authi provides a single API end which can regulate this two-factor authentication for you. So it's a use case as an API. For the intelligence, there's also Autopilot, which uses some sort of AI at the back end, so you can serve your customers better with the bots you create. There's a Twilio conversation agents. So these are kind of APIs which you can use to build a two-way communication system using Twilio. There are orchestration services like Twilio Studio. In Studio, there are just building blocks. You can integrate those building blocks and build a system. We'll see all of this in the Twilio console as well. Then there's a task router API. If you see in a contact center use case, maybe there are different experts for the different domains, right? So if you go to the bank's contact center, there might be different person who's handling account fraud. So there might be different person who's handling debit card fraud. There might be different person who's handling like FD sort of fraud. So all of these departments are handled by the different persons. So if any call comes in and it's regarding to the debit card fraud or credit card fraud, it should go to a particular person who is handling it. So task router helps you to provide that as a service. Then there's channel APIs. Channel APIs are programmable SMS, programmable voice, Twilio send with email API, programmable chat, programmable video, fax, and Twilio API for WhatsApp. So what all these things provide? So let's go to a small demo over here. So when we see a programmable SMS API, suppose on my number some SMS comes in and I want to reply it automatically. So I can just write this small flask app in Python, which will provide me that functionality. So the Twilio library provides you this response and messaging response thing, as well as you can collect an SMS. So whenever the new number comes in, or the new SMS comes in, you can store the text in a particular thing and or a particular variable, and you can see if the variable matches your particular result, and then you can send some response. Otherwise, for the every SMS, you can generalize the response, and this is very simple thing to do. So you can write something in a 3-4 lines, or you can write some small app which will work very efficiently with the Twilio. So going back, the similar things you can do for the programmable voice as well. You can make calls, you can receive calls, you can monitor your calls, as well as you can, if you want to set an automated SMS for the if you receive a call, then also you can do that. For the programmable chat, you can build a response system, which works on what kind of content the user is sending, and accordingly you can program your responses. Similarly, there are automated email APIs which you can use to send and receive emails. Then there's a fax systems for the same, and there's a new Twilio API for WhatsApp, which works on the WhatsApp business account, and it helps you automate your WhatsApp business services, or whatever services you're providing with your WhatsApp business account. So suppose you want to send a booking confirmation, or you want to send a ticket to your user on a WhatsApp. So that is what you can do using Twilio API for WhatsApp. Right? Talking about the super network thing, you can buy phone numbers. You can access local, national, international numbers. So suppose I'm sitting in India, and I'm running company in US, and I want to buy I want to have a US number which I can use to interact with my customers in the US. So I can buy a phone number on Twilio. It will cost you $1 for the and you will only pay after that. You will only pay for the services you are using. Either you're using calls, or either you're using for your SMS and whatever things you're using. So then there's a programmable wireless service. There's a short codes, the super sim, which is available in some of the countries, and coming soon to the other parts of the world. There's a SIP trunking, there's narrowband, there's interconnect. In case of our tools, there's a runtime which manages the communication apps with the studio functions and developer productivity tools. So going back to our stack. So as I said, it's composed of the building blocks. So in case of the programmable voice, there are Twilio voice, client, phone numbers, conferencing, interconnect, task router sort of things. In case of the programmable messaging, there's a SMS, short codes, programmable MMS, IP messaging, messaging copilot, Twilio monitor, and sort of things. So for the programmable video, there are programmable video and network traversal service, and there are many new services announced this year as well. So I hope all of you have a Twilio account. So if you have a Twilio account, you can just you can just go ahead to your console and see all of those things working. So if you don't have, you can just scan this QR code and create a Twilio account. So talking about the use cases, let's explore if you want to build a complete contact center using Twilio APIs, what services you will be using or exploring. So for the contact center, you will need Twilio voice service, you will need Twilio client, you will need some phone numbers, you will need a conferencing system, you will need a task router. In case of a SMS, you will need a programmable SMS, IP messaging, Twilio programmable video. So let's integrate all of this and see how all of this will be working. When we're talking about contact center, obviously you will need a voice call agent, and you will need some phone client to integrate with that voice call agent. After that, you will need some phone number to contact, obviously, and then there will be conferencing, because if you have too many people in your contact center, as well as on the user side, that helps. So how task router comes into picture? As I said, if there are different use cases for each of this, like in case of a bank, if there's a debit card or credit card system, then there's account management, then there's something related to other services. Then the task router helps you to route the people to the particular person of contact accordingly. Then there's a programmable SMS for sending the confirmation or suppose the feedback you have, whatever you want to send afterwards, or even if you want to build an agent around it, like a contact center agent, you can build it. So there's a service like IP messaging as well. Then the programmable video, if you want to interact with the client screen, or if you want to take input video as an input, you can use a programmable video to integrate over here. Then there's a mobile marketing system. So when you can use a mobile suppose I have a booking system, or I have a travel company, and I want to market my travel packages to my clients or to my potential customers. What I can do is the most basic thing I can do is send SMSs regarding the offers, or send SMS regarding new deals coming in. So I can use a mobile marketing service for that. I just need a number. Then some of the so I will use some of the APIs like programmable SMS, short codes, programmable MMS, or IP messaging, or messaging copilot, and I can send the automated messages in a certain period of time. So I can automate those according to the sentiments I receive back, or I can automate them according to user interest, or whatever categories he's interested in. So there's again the anonymous communication system, which you can build using some of the Twilio voice APIs and messaging APIs. Then instant lead alerts you can build using it. Then visual estimates you can do. So these are some of the services you can build easily using the composable building blocks from the Twilio APIs. So what we can understand from this is has so many services, but those all are the independent services which you can use as a building block to build a system which works. These are some of the clients Twilio has, and how they are using the Twilio APIs, and how they are using these building blocks to generate something. So Tulia is using it for lead generation, Uber is using it for commerce, and Coca-Cola is using it for collaboration, and Zendesk is using it for customer service. So when we talk about Uber's use case, Uber connects drivers and passengers with each other without disclosing their personal phone numbers. Most of you might have observed that. So how they do that? So suppose a customer wants to book a Uber, so he places a request for the Uber pickup. It goes over the Uber's whole system, which is based on some cloud system, and it connects it to the driver. So the customer gets the riders book. So customer gets a ETA alert via a Twilio phone number. So now the customer, although the alert is being sent to the driver's number, it will go through a Twilio API, and it will mask a number, and it will send a ETA alert via a Twilio number. Then the customer can call driver directly, or the driver can call the customer, right? So this will be done via routing to the Twilio cloud services. So suppose the customer is calling, his number will be masked, and driver will see the number, the Twilio number, and the same will go vice versa. So talking about use cases here, that here there's just imagination as your scale. So you can think about so many use cases around it, and we are very eager to see what you will build using the systems. I will go through some of the demo applications I have built over the past few days, and uh, will show you how easy it is.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jayesh. Can we have?
So this is one of the app I built. Is the fake news 4, which detects a fake news, the link, or if you send any headline for the article on the website, it will detect the fake news. get the you can get a message reply if it's a fake news or not. So this is just a API. This is the API end we are dealing with. So this is the API end we are dealing with. So we have a Flask app setup. This is the inbound message we are getting. So suppose user is sending something, we will get the body out of it, and you will store in the inbound message variable. So now I have this prediction file, which you can see over here. I'm calling a function detecting fake news from the prediction, and then I'm just sending the inbound message for that particular function. And now let's see what's happening in the prediction. In prediction, I have a model from which I'm inferencing if it's a fake news or not, and I'm storing the prediction as well as probability of the prediction into these two variables, and I'm returning these variables. So I will get this variable in the prediction and confidence, and I will just send a response message saying the news headline you entered is whatever the prediction will be, true or false, and it corresponds to the confidence level I have. So let's see how that looks in a real life. So suppose you send some message, so it will give you the response. New deadline you entered is true, and it correspond to X% of the confidence. Similarly, it goes for all of the things. So this is how it works, and these are just like few lines using which you can build this. So if you want to access this application, it's available on my GitHub as well. So you can go to github.com/jpiv, and you can you can go through this application, and you can build something, or you can edit this for your own purpose. So talking about building something cool with the Twilio, we have a Twilio hackathon on dev going on. We just announced the Twilio code exchange community last week, and we have announced a hackathon as well. So there are four categories for the hackathon. There's the COVID-19 communication, engaging engagements, interesting integrations, and exciting X factors. You can build something around the COVID-19 data sets for the prediction system, or you can build some helping applications for the elderly, remote education tools, distribution of supplies, and for those who are in need, or telemedicine systems. Then talking about the prizes, we have four grand prize winners who will receive the $1,500 gift card or equivalent, a Twilio swag pack, which will be a $300 value, a signal ticket, which is the annual conference of the Twilio and happening in September and October this year. Then you will receive your project will be showcased on Twilio Code Exchange, which is a new code exchange community we announced. Then you will be receiving a $300 credit on the dev shop, where you can buy cool sacks from the dev. There will be a winner badge on your profile as well. There are similar prizes for the runner-ups and the participants. So this is the website where you can go and explore more about the Twilio hackathon. There's a post on a dev which will give you the details about how you can participate in the hackathon, or how you can what use cases you can build. My friends Dominic and Phil are also running some office hours. Details about it are on the same website, and you can join the office hours and learn more about how you can build something. So if you want some ideas about the use case, you can get those via the office hours. So I will tell you more about one more thing we are concerned with, the Twilio Quest. So suppose you are very new to hold this thing, and you want to learn about how you can integrate Twilio, how Twilio APIs work. So what you can do is you can just go to this website, Twilio Quest. You can either download the Twilio Quest, or it's available online as well. You can just play it online. What Twilio Quest does is Twilio Quest provides you an interactive gamification way to give you idea about how you can use Twilio, or how so there are many levels, like you will buy a number first, then you will build something using the SMS API, then you will build something using video APIs, and all this you can do with a role playing on the Twilio Quest. So you can download it, or you can guess you can play it online as well. Okay, so I have it downloaded. Okay, so you can so it's downloading some updates, and you can go over here. There are too many ways to interact with this whole thing. You can write the code, you can learn about Twilio, and you can build some things using APIs using a Twilio quest. So this is the way I will suggest you to go for if you want to explore more about Twilio. You should surely check this out. Not sure about the question. So do you have any questions around Twilio? I'm open for it. So if you have any questions around it, you can just ping me on my Twitter. This is the QR code for my Twitter, and as well as if you want a more use for, as well as the bookworm system I built around Twilio, you can go to the dev and dev.to, and you can check out those articles. You will also find the code repositories over there. You can go to those, and you can you can explore, and you can build something you customize useful. So Harsh has a question that can we use the API for free up to certain limit? So yes, when you sign up using the QR code I have shown earlier, you will get the $50 credit, and that should be enough for you, because the buying a number will cost you only $1, and after that you will spend like $0.01 per SMS, which is pretty cheap, and that's almost that $50 should last you long. Okay, so cool. So I guess we are done here. Abhishek, you want to continue with it?
Yes, thank you so much, Jayesh. It was a very nice session, and I hope our audience get to learn something new, some uh, some unconventional
So
technology. And
just a minute. So has one more
yes,
question, that
yes,
how
we
much is
also
the
have one
validity
more
of the
question.
$50? So there's no validity for those $50. So you can use it to up to any period you want. There won't be any validity. That shouldn't be an issue. Cool.
Yeah, so we'll wait few seconds more. So if anyone has questions, yeah. Actually, I have a question, Jayesh, if you don't mind.
Yes.
So, what are some daily life use cases you will suggest? Can you give some examples of using Twilio in daily use cases?
So for daily life use cases. We can see, suppose you want to keep notes of something, like suppose you want to send you have some few task list. These are the things I want
Okay.
to do in my whole day. You just send those things over the WhatsApp, and you can use the Twilio programmable APIs, or you can use the Twilio functions to create a function, like it will send you a reminder over the particular period. Suppose you said that at 10:15 I want to code a particular thing. I have a particular meeting. So at 10:15 it will send you a SMS or WhatsApp or your normal SMS that you should be here at this time, or you should be in this meeting at this time. So these are some of the things you can build. Or suppose you want to uh, build something for your college, like suppose you want to uh, uh, build attendance system, or suppose you want to build lecture reminders, or something like that. You can build around it. Then there are many use cases around if you talk about the industry specifications. Like if you want to talk about medical industry, then there will be different use cases. Then if you want to talk about some other industries, there will be different use cases around it.
Okay,
So
thanks.
when we talk about this API, imagination is only your limit.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very great, and I've just started reading your blogs regarding how you are implementing Twilio in daily life. Or so I'll suggest our viewers to go through his dev.to profile, and you can see his articles. They are pretty much detailed about Twilio, and you can get some other technologies related articles too. So they're very great. I'll recommend it to everybody, and I think we are done. We don't have any messages, I guess. Okay, cool. I think we are done here now. No questions. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and it was a really great session by both of our speakers, and I'll thank them both once again. And also, we are provided by some certificates for attendance by MLH. We'll be sharing them to your personal emails after the event. And if you want the slides or any resources, we'll pin them to description section also. So you can check the description for all the slides and resources. So yeah, I think that's all from my side, and thank you for joining us today. See you. Stay safe.